Okay, people, it's podcast time. Sam Lamb is calling in. He's out of pocket, as they say, so we'll get him remotely instead of having him in the flesh. In the flesh is always preferred, but remotely is better than nothing, and I'll take it because nothing's more fun than chatting with my boy. And we had a crazy, crazy busy week this week. Lots of stuff going on. The number 1A best announcer in all of sports, in my opinion, passed this week, which is a bummer. We had a major film director pass as well, and then we have all sorts of crazy shit going on in the politics game. Huge story locally, and I've got feelings that I'm going to share with you guys about on the statewide local situation that's going on. So we're going to talk about that and many other things, but you should go to your favorite podcast provider, like, friend, follow, share on all your socials, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Text us to your friends. Share us however you can do it. Support the show by telling other people to listen to our chatteramas, and to email us at almostagreement@gmail.com to talk about some stuff. I had a big old goose egg of replies from our elected officials this week on a number of things I called, or emailed about and got no answers. Surprise. But anyway, we'll talk about that among other things in the podcast. We're going to start right now. Hi, Fran.
Hey.
How do you?
I be.
You be. So yeah, old Bob Uecker passed yesterday.
Yeah.
That one hurt my heart.
That was very sad.
It actually made me happy at the same time, because I give my wife the rando obits as celebrities pass. She doesn't really pay attention to that kind of parts of the news. And so I said, "Hey, baby, I got a random obit for you." And she's like, "Okay." And I was like, Bob Uecker." And she's like, "Who's that?" And I was like, "Well, he's the longtime play-by-play announcer for my Milwaukee Brewers. But more importantly, he was the maybe best character in all of Major League, the movie Just a Bit Outside." It's one of the, and as soon as I said that line, she knew exactly what I was talking about. So that made me feel good, that she at least knew that character of him. So, yeah.
I watched a clip. It was from Letterman. It started out with like a Norm Macdonald, but I guess he was on right after him. But I mean, I was fucking crying, laughing. He's just like straight up dry humor, was just fucking hilarious.
He's a funny guy. So, yeah, that I keep blanking out on this director's name. He's definitely directed and created some pretty good films that I've enjoyed, and I just don't remember his name.
Yeah, I just had to relook it up again yesterday when I was talking to my roommate about it. And I swear, like in the first paragraph, it mentioned him like a musician, and I was like, wait, I thought he was a director.
David Lynch, yeah.
The Twin Peaks was his most famous thing.
Yeah, Twin Peaks, Mulholland Drive, Blue Velvet were some of the headlines. Somewhere in Time. No, that's a different guy. David Lynch, director of Twin Peaks, Blue Velvet, and more, dies at 78.
Yeah, apparently he did that very sensual, was it Chris Isaak's album? What was that black and white one? It was like him and this like beautiful woman on a beach, just like in a hammock, just like making out. Nice. Lose somebody like you. I think that's what the name of the song was.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently he directed that video. I think I saw that mentioned in the article. I was like, I do remember it being very artsy.
Yeah, so, that's our rando obits of the week. I mean, bottom line, flat out, number 1A, what's the biggest story of the week to you before I tell you mine? I think you know what mine's going to be.
I know yours, but I haven't heard yours. I've been looking for it. I haven't seen it anywhere.
Which one's mine?
About the mayor?
Yeah. You haven't seen anything on this?
No.
Oh, it has been the hot goss. So it's not official. It has not been.
Okay, well it
is official. It's not official, but it's happening. I promise.
I'm not doubting. I'm just saying.
People who know the right answer are talking about it. I mean, the main one is that Marsha Blackburn and her personally and her office has started reaching out to some donors and organizers and stuff like that, whom will be part of her campaign process, and it as well as people who work with her currently and have done campaign work with her before. So. Does that mean
she would leave in the middle of a...
Yeah, she would be two of 6 inches because she just got elected to this...
Right, yeah.
Just now to the Senate seat. Which there's some interesting little, just like procedural issues that'll be fun if she does do this. So Okay, let me fill in the gaps here. Sorry, we're jumping all over the place. Miss Marsha Blackburn is pretty significantly looking into running to replace Governor Lee as the governor of the state of Tennessee. Lots of different conjecture on whys and whos and whens and whys and all that kind of crap. But
what's the chance that that's still just exploratory?
I don't think. I mean, I think
they would make that overture without some.
Yeah, I think she's a good enough operator that if she was just thinking about it, she would get some information without anybody know. She would get the information she needs to make a decision without anybody knowing it.
Yeah.
I think she knows who she's talking to and that those people are going to talk in the public. She knows that this is out there. She hasn't put the official word together. Nothing has to be done yet, so nothing needs to be done yet. But I mean, the biggest one is that when asked, Mayor Glenn Jacobs of Knox County says, if she runs for governor of the state of Tennessee, I will endorse her. Which that
diplomatic.
Right, but that sentence in and of itself says he will forego his own governor run if she says she's running.
Yeah, I guess you could read it that way. Yeah,
you know, and so to me, if that's his public statement that he has made on the topic, says that he is comfortable throwing away the last decade of his political work and all the different things that he has been putting effort into and growing his political resume, if you will, he is willing to put that on pause. You know, and so to me, if it's exploratory, if it's just kind of a curiosity thing, I think the answer still properly diplomatically from him or his office would be, you know, if she makes that decision, I'll make my decision. I'm not going to tell you what I'm not going to endorse if whatever. I'm going to say, I would think, at least that would be my take. It'd be like, I would say something like, you know, if she decides to run, we'll figure out what we're going to do from there. Not if she decides to run, I'm going to step aside and I'm going to back her fully 100%. Because the other,
that's what I'm saying. It's a diplomatic way of saying, well, I would support her. I mean, because nobody's going to call him on that. I don't know, 2 years from now, whatever.
I mean, it'll get real before the end of this year.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll have.
But I'm saying I don't think anybody was going to call him back on this and be like, "Hey, but you said you would support her, and we interpreted it as this." So
well, I
mean,
think if
he was trying to leave it as a happy medium.
If she doesn't run, he's fine to continue his efforts. But if she runs, he's not running. That's the thing that. I don't think he would try to. Right, because to me, he's a good little boy in the party. He's playing the good little boy of the new Trumplican Republican Party. He's been out there campaigning for Trump. He's been out there supporting different MAGA side candidates for a while. Like, I mean, he was up in he went to the Iowa caucuses for Trump. He ran as a delegate for the primaries to be a Trump delegate for the Republican primary.
Right.
You know, and so he has been actively playing the national, statewide and national parts of the game to grow his brand inside the party. And he's been a good little boy about doing it, and he hasn't, you know, put himself in any jeopardy with the party at large. And he's certainly not going to do that now by running against Marsha when she announces this decision.
Right.
And so I think that's I mean, it's a loss for me. I don't know. I don't want her to be our governor.
Oh, I had a thought. I don't know how likely it is. I mean, you remember the video that he did with Hulk Hogan with Trump?
Vaguely.
Vaguely.
It wasn't Hulk. It was Undertaker, wasn't it?
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. It just kind of in that same line of things. I guess I was conflating it, but I don't know if you saw the viral video or whatever of Hulk Hogan.
I remember hearing about
Monday Night Raw. Apparently, like most of the crowd was booing or whatever. It was in California, for clarity's sake. I don't know if that means quite as much, but
the crowd was booing Hogan or
Hogan. But I had that kind of thought of maybe this kind of like alignment with Trump has turned off, you know, some of like the wrestling base or something. Maybe if he was getting some pushback of maybe some of his fans or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Hogan's not in politics, and you know, neither is, I can't remember, Mark something is
Undertaker
guy's name. Yeah,
whatever, the Undertaker, Mark and Andrews. I would say Andrews or something like that.
Sounds right.
But
Yeah, I had the thought. I was like, I wonder if he's gotten some pushback from the stronger alignment.
I mean, I don't know. I think the Tennessee version of the Republican Party is more Trumplican than not. And so for his ends, he's fine with being attached to a Trump image, and so is Marsha for that matter. I mean, Marsha has been one of the biggest, most vocal Trump apologist senators we've had in the last 6 years since she's been in office.
I agree.
So I mean, that doesn't seem to be. It's certainly not something that's going to disqualify you from the party's standards. Who is getting to create the field of primary candidates, and there's really,
I don't know. Like I said, it was an off thought. I was like, wrestling's bigger than a lot of people realize. I wonder if he did get some kind of pushback from that community.
Maybe. I mean, I literally like the question. Like the question to me is, regardless of him, the prediction I have, because 80 is not too old to run for president anymore. Obviously, I think Marsha's doing this for legacy. She wants to be not only the first woman elected to represent the state of Tennessee in the United States Senate. She wants to be the first woman to be the governor of the state of Tennessee, and then she wants to be the first woman president of the United States. I think this is a career move for her. It doesn't make any sense to me otherwise. Like, I take that back. Some of it does. Like, one of the things that's floating around is like her grandkids. She can spend more time with her grandkids if she's the governor, because she'll be here. She lives just outside of Nashville.
Right.
And realistically, Tennessee government is a somewhat part-time entity. So even like when we're in session and we're doing stuff, and the governor's busy, she'll still have time to spend with her family and grandkids and stuff. But then when it's not in session and it's the lighter part of the year, she'll have more time to spend with her family. Which, as a retirement from politics move goes, I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm trying to think. I know it's happened before. DeSantis did it, but DeSantis came out of the House of Reps. He wasn't a senator from Florida. He was a representative from Florida. Now, as a representative, I can see it as a...
Yeah, he was a senator.
He was a senator from Florida?
At his most recent, I don't know if he started out in the House, but his most recent, when he was running, he was Senator Marco Rubio.
No, not Marco Rubio, DeSantis.
Oh, I'm sorry. He was governor.
Yeah. But prior to his governor, he was a U.S. senator from Florida, or a U.S. representative from Florida.
I'm sorry. My mind's not working.
No, you're okay. No, I get it. But I would say, like, to me, and I don't know, I'm curious if you agree with this hierarchy of things. I think on the top echelon, so starting from the top president of the United States, as a standard position without like an executive position inside of that, so take out like the Speaker of the House or the leader of the majority leader of the Senate or whatever. As the actual elected positions go, I would say the President of the United States, a U.S. Senator, a state governor, and then a U.S. House of Reps would be my like order of power, for lack of a better word, of gravitas or importance. I don't know what you want to call it. Yeah, I've heard people...
You're saying of elected. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I've heard people make the reference, and I get the logic in it. It's like, the president is one of one, a senator is one of 100, a governor is one of 50, and so by the limited number of colleagues, quote unquote, standard, your governorship is stronger. Now, the executive powers versus a legislative powers is a functional difference in those two bodies. Right. But to me, it seems like a step down, especially if you're a forefront senator like Blackburn is. You're not a Haggerty that nobody really pays attention to. You're Blackburn that everybody's talking about and being talked about and talking about everybody else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like there are 100 senators and we only know like 7 or 8 by name. And we only know Haggerty because he's ours. If Haggerty was the other senator from Arizona, we wouldn't know anything about him.
Yeah, I forget Haggerty's name most of the time.
Exactly.
And I was like, I know we got Marsha, and then there's the one other person that...
Right, and so to me, like, you say that she's 1 in 100 in the Senate, where she'll be 1 of 50 in governors. Okay, that's true, but I think she's like 1 of 20 in the Senate, realistically. I think she's in the upper echelon of the Senate just because of her visibility, for lack of a better word.
I can't remember what committee she's on, but she's definitely she's a more outspoken voice than most, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. And so to me, it seems like a step down politically to like, again, okay, so if your argument you want to spend more time with your kid, just fucking retire. You don't need the money. You know, like, it's really the only thing that makes sense. Like, again, it's the ego of I'm the right person to be this thing. I'm my thoughts and the way I would do this are the most important because I'm smarter than everybody else. That's why anybody runs for office in the first place, especially long-term office holders. And so if that's most likely her mindset is that, you know, it's not that she wants the job, it's that she needs to do the job for the safety and well-being of her fellow citizens. Like, that is her mentality, I'm assuming.
Yeah, some people take that perspective.
And I'm going to guess that, but I'm just saying, my argument would be that she is one of those people. And so if that's your mindset, then why would you, then you take the step down to be a governor. That mindset's not going to change in 4 years. What are you going to do? You're going to be governor. You're going to run for governor again when you're 80 or 76? No, she's 72 right now. Yeah, she's 72 right now. She would be running for governor at 74. Her first term would end at 78. So she could either run for governor at 78 for her second term, or she could run for president at 78 for her first term. I don't, you know, I would argue that 78 is too old to run for president of the United States 1,000% of the time. But I don't think she would agree with that sentiment, obviously, because she loves Trump and Trump's older than she is.
I think if she got the governorship, I don't think she would do more than one term. I would think once she got to like 78, I don't know.
I mean, I think I disagree with that wholeheartedly. If
you think that she was kind of doing it as part of legacy as well, you know, she could say she served as the first governor, went out with a bang.
Yeah, but I think if she's, I think the number one thing about Trump and my argument for Trump and why I'm not worried about dictator Trump that everybody talks about is I don't think he wants to be president. I think he just doesn't want to go to jail. And he doesn't want his legacy to end on the loss in 2020. So he's going to term out. He doesn't have to run again. He doesn't have to lose to get out of office. He just has to get out of office because those are the rules. So then he can go out as a winner. And I couldn't imagine, I don't imagine, the point of that being is I don't imagine Blackburn not running to keep her seat as the governor unless she's running for something else. She's going to run for both terms if she's going to bother doing it. I would think. Because, why would you leave the Senate? You're going to keep that Senate seat until she's 76 and run, or 76. She'll be running for that seat again. She'll finish her next term in the Senate at 82. With my Senate term, she's still got another term after that at least. Maybe 2 more.
Maybe she's just trying to turn up the clock. I think she just wants to do one. If she goes for the governorship, I think she would just do one term. So I would think she's just kind of want to turn up the clock. She's like, hey, it's going to be a governorship. I can just kind of start my retirement that much earlier. If her true goal is to, you know, spend more time with her kids, the quicker she can make that happen.
Right. And my gut reaction is I call bullshit on that too. But, you know, take her at her word, I guess.
Sounds good.
Right. We don't have a choice otherwise. We need to take her at her word on that.
Right.
So be it. She wants to spend more time with her grandkids. How much you want to bet they're not in public schools in Nashville?
Was it? Who was it? It was somebody was telling us that Carter was like the only president to send his kids.
Matt was telling us that. Yeah,
was it Matt? No, I thought it was. Okay, sorry. Blanked on his name. I was wasn't it that told us?
As soon as you said Jimmy Carter, I knew you were talking about Matt. That's like, you know,
right.
The biggest.
I assume so too, but I know if I saw a clip on TV, I was talking about it.
I did get to talk to Matt a little bit earlier this week. He did get to make it down to. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what he said, what he did, but he did get down to Georgia, and got to see part of the procession or whatever exactly it was. I think he said he went to Plains and went to the actual burial portion.
Wow.
And that, as there was viewings or whatever, there was one member from every branch of the military hanging out around his, standing guard at his coffin for 2 days or whatever. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Was it Matt that was telling us about his Secret Service agents?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, if you say President Carter, it's Matt.
Well, I mean, there's been other stuff on TV. Not totally oblivious to anything going on.
But
only rely on one.
Speaking of, he's one of the people that sent me a story about Marsha running for governor. By the way, I think he was the first one to say something about it, because I'd sent him that. Remember when I sent you that video of me taking that really dumb survey?
Yeah,
I sent it to him as well, and I asked him if he knew who whatever the polling company was. And he said they're like a massive, they do tons of stuff. Yeah. And he said that was a really dumb survey that you took. I was like, yeah, pretty sure the survey was, does this person take surveys? All right, we'll come back to you later.
I mean, a lot of those are like feelers out, like even like a lot of like the spam calls and stuff, or just trying to see if that line's active or if somebody will pick up. Or...
Yeah, the funny one about that thing is they sent me the text with the link the next day as well, and I clicked on it and said, you already did it. And I was like, yeah, I know I already did it. Why'd you send it to me again?
Because you already got flagged in their system as somebody that does it.
Yeah. I guess their system's first.
Like, see if we'll try it again. Like, yeah, he clicked on it again.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, this guy's good. Like, all right, put him on the good list.
Put him on the list. He will partake. Yeah. So anyway,
man, you make some money on that shit. I think you're doing it for free.
I think she. Anyway, back to, I don't know. I think I find it's I don't know. I feel like there needs to be a greater cause, like a greater purpose to her intention with what she's doing to upset the future of the party. That's the other part to me that kind of jumps out. It's like, you've got an up and coming, I mean, Glenn's only like 55, You've got an up and coming pretty major figure who is pretty right down the middle of what you want for the party long term, who probably had a good shot at becoming the governor of the state of Tennessee. And it's going to be hard for 8 years from now for him to try to run for governor again. Because he's going to have been, theoretically, he'll have been out of the spotlight, and or he might get appointed to take her spot in the Senate. And then at that point, why would he go down to go up? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, which that's one of the weird little...
unless he wants more kind of national. Maybe he's not necessarily power-driven, so doesn't want, that massive power.
Maybe.
I had that thought, too. I was like, well, I wonder how that would work out if Lee, coming out, somebody coming in, if they could appoint the new senator.
Well, so it really depends on when she quits her Senate seat.
Right.
She doesn't have to vacate her Senate seat to run for governor. She doesn't have to vacate her seat after she's won the election. She only has to vacate her seat like 24 hours before she gets sworn in as governor.
Guess that's the rules.
And so essentially what she can do is she can wait until the day or the day before she gets sworn in and get sworn in and then appoint whoever she wants to take her place. And then it's
No, she wouldn't have the authority. Actually, I guess it would be the deputy governor at that time.
No, as soon as she gets sworn in, she has the authority.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Because she's no longer the senator, she's the governor,
You're
and
right.
the governor has to appoint an interim replacement if a governor or if a senator leaves for whatever reason.
That's true, too.
And so that could be the deal that she gave Jacobs and why he immediately endorsed her plan. She's like, when I win, I'll put you can come take my place here in D.C., and I'll go down there and I'll be the governor of Tennessee. And maybe not in so many words, but essentially that quid pro quo, if you will, is likely in play. Because apparently they're pretty tight, the Lee or Jacobs and Blackburn. Now,
really?
Yeah. I mean, they've been doing, like, they both went out, they toured around together doing Trump stumps and stuff like that. I mean, they were both out on the road campaigning for Trump together and separately. They're both, that's what I'm saying. Like, they're both in the kind of subset of the Republican. They're in the same subset of the Republican Party. I guess would be the easiest way to say it. And so, functionally, politically, optically, they're very similar. I mean, they don't look the same. She looks like a old lady with a lot of plastic surgery. He looks like a giant gnome. But, politically they're very similar looking. Like if you did a flyer and put his picture on it or put her picture on it and all the words were the same, I'd believe it.
I think he's slightly more moderate than her, but I could be wrong. I don't know a whole lot about.
I mean, he still tries
a lot of his.
He tries
ideals.
he tries to call himself a libertarian, and that drives me crazy.
Right.
But that's because my interpretation of libertarianism is way different than his. But yeah, that's I don't know. My prediction is it's happening. She's going to win, and we're going to have at least 4 years. I don't imagine it not being 8 unless she leaves to try to run for president. Because then I got into a Facebook argument about it. I put that premise out. People were poking at me about it. It's like, look, when's the last time a VP ran and won president as a sitting vice president?
Say again?
When's the last time a sitting vice president ran for president and won? Arguably Gore, but functionally not. Bush Sr.
Johnson kind of. I mean, he came in when Kennedy was assassinated, but got reelected again after that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Ford.
I mean, Bush.
I guess he wasn't he Johnson's vice president and then was elected.
Daddy Bush.
No, Ford.
No, I'm saying I think Daddy Bush was vice president and then president.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. And H.W. Bush.
Yeah, but still, when was that?
92.
Right. So Gore ran for president and didn't win. Who was Daddy Bush's vice president? Quayle? Was that the Dan Quayle era? Did he try to run for president?
Yeah, he was the one that couldn't spell potatoes or something. No, I don't think he tried to
run. But Gore definitely did, and Bush, Cheney didn't.
No.
But I think the writing was on the wall. There was no Republican that was beating Obama. So I would, if I were trying to be president one day, I would not be running as a Republican after Bush Jr., vice president or not. I don't know. Did Biden try to run after Clinton? He wasn't the nominee.
I think he did try to. Yeah, I think he was in the
he tried to run for president before he was vice president too, but
right.
He's tried to. This was his like 6th or 7th attempt at running for president when he finally won a couple years ago.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time he tried.
But he's done. He's retired as of like right now. I mean, he's still technically the president until Monday, but
right.
I was reading an article about a bunch of different orders and commutations and stuff they were trying to squeeze in right here at the end.
That's why he commuted some more sentences today for like drug offenses.
Right, and they got but basically they were saying like, end of business day is when the functional part of the job stops. So we have a president, but all the functional, executive orders and commutations and all those things have stopped. So the list is what we got.
And apparently with Bondi that is they're wanting to be the attorney general. Apparently, she put out a statement wasn't too keen on his first round of commutations.
Yeah, whatever.
Or death row inmates.
Yeah, of course not.
Well,
her whole thing is, her whole confirmation hearing was was like 80% immigration stuff was all they talked about. It was most of what they talked about.
I saw a few clips from it.
But alas, slowly getting some of those are coming together. I don't know, whatever, who cares? We'll see what happens. Old Pete Hegseth is getting crucified and whatever.
See, they're moving the inauguration indoors?
I did see that. It's the first time since, what did they say?
Has that happened before? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's very rare, but it has happened before.
Yeah. Apparently this was...
it was Reagan. Reagan's inauguration was inside.
Yeah, apparently it's also been one of the rare times that it's fallen on MLK Day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but it's also supposed to be like 4 degrees. So
I didn't see what the temperature was supposed to be. Yeah, they're calling for frigid temperatures.
I can respect that. Although I marched in Bush Jr.'s second inauguration parade when I was in UT's band, and it wasn't as cold as they were talking about, but it was a miserable day to be in that parade. I'll say that much.
I think it was raining.
Yeah, but it was like 34 degrees and raining. It was more just the like, I get it. I'm not complaining in principle. Like it was a terribly uncomfortable day to be a human being and go through what we had to do to be a part of this thing. But like, through all the security stuff, which I'm sure is probably more now than it was then, because this was post 9/11, so this was the election after 9/11 actually. So maybe security has come back down a little bit since then. But I mean, it was like a 15 hour day.
Yeah.
Most
you guys
of
wear ponchos at all?
Nope. We were already on the route when it's like they'd already made the decision we're going without when we were en route when it actually started raining.
At least the wool's supposed to keep you warm.
Yeah, well,
even when it's wet.
It was miserable. But I mean, we were at the Pentagon going through security at like 8 a.m. I don't think we stepped off for the parade part until 4 p.m. And I don't think we went across the presidential viewing station until like 6:30 p.m.
Yeah, I remember the London parade being pretty crazy. Setting up time for that.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. We're post this New Orleans event and other stuff, and so I'm sure security's going to be pretty crazy. Although they did say they were opening the whatever their arena is where the Wizards and the Capitals play for a viewing. Like they're going to do a.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and I think Trump's truth on, don't try to come down to the Capitol building. It's going to be full, and don't be outside. It's going to be too cold. So go over there and watch it.
Right. Stay warm.
Yeah, stay warmish. Speaking of, apparently, KP or the sheriff's office let a guy in a wheelchair out of the detention center up in the northeast side of town, and he froze to death 2 nights ago.
I heard that he had been investigated like a couple days ago. I don't know about it being released right prior.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what the story was. I just kind of saw it in passing.
Kind of misrepresented in the way you just stated that.
The way it was presented and where I saw it was that they released a guy with nowhere to go into like freezing cold night. That was the way it was presented as I saw it. Right. If you have more, please share.
No, I don't. That's what I was saying. I heard that like he had been investigated or arrested like a few days prior. I don't know when exactly he was released.
But yeah, he froze to death afterwards, so that sucks.
Right.
I don't know. We were talking. So I don't know. Anything else on the Blackburn topic before we move on?
I don't think I've seen anything else on it.
We had chatted a little bit earlier this week about our, Knox County Sheriff's Office that had killed that 18-year-old in an early morning raid, and we were discussing that thing. I did try to reach out. I did email Amelia Parker. She did not get back to me with some questions. Because like when we were talking about it, as we were discussing it, the more I was thinking about it, I don't understand. Like I get your point, when you're trying to do a drug bust and you're trying to get in there and get the people detained before they could destroy a bunch of evidence, that you got to be quick and sneaky and aggressive, for lack of a better word. I get that. Logically. But I don't know. I just like the idea of knocking somebody's door in at 7:00 in the morning and then getting defensive about them pulling their gun out on you seems a little bit counterintuitive to me.
No, I mean, it wasn't a search warrant. It was an arrest warrant.
No.
I mean, I don't know if you politely asked them.
Because WBR got a copy of the search warrant because they were specifically going into that house to look for what they saw on his Instagram, because he was posting on his Instagram stacks of cash, guns, and drugs.
I may have misread it. I thought it was an actual arrest warrant.
Because what was the arrest warrant?
I don't know.
I mean, I would think that they would need to have evidence of the crime of drug dealing to serve their...
I mean, if I remember correctly, they found social media posts of him admitting to it, saying that he was selling this and this and this at school.
Right, but without evidence of him doing so, it's just him talking. I would think, criminally speaking, like you could publicly admit to a crime that didn't happen, and
right. You can get a warrant and be arrested under the suspicion of a crime.
Right, but then but it's okay. Either way, if that's the thought process, you want to go find evidence, and like you were saying, you want to go raid the house where you believe the evidence to be, and you have reason to believe so because the social media posts show the evidence in his bedroom, and this is where he lives.
Yeah, I think the most recent one was kind of alluded to that he was making like one last big score or something, so he could get out of the game or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that seems like just a dumb thing to do in general, to post your illegal activities and intentions onto Instagram. Seems, kind of counterintuitive to your goal. Because it's...
Yeah. And you're like, I had it set to private. I mean, nobody can see it.
Yeah, but still, I mean, even to take the law and order part of it out, if I am your rival dealer and you're telling me you got a bunch of stuff because you're trying to get your last score to get out of the game, it seems like it'd be an opportune time to rob you and take your stuff.
Very true, too.
Because you're announcing that you have a lot of stuff.
Right.
So either way, it's not a very, like, even without the legal part of it, it seems like a not so smart move on the employment part of this game. But again, so to me, like, I get my point, I guess, is like either way, whether it was an arrest warrant or a search warrant on his domicile, the idea of kicking somebody's door in at 7:00 in the morning and expecting, and especially if you believe that they have weapons and expecting them not to go for their weapons when their door kicks in, seems ridiculous to me. It seems like that's what a reaction from a person is going to be, and if that's the reaction, then to me it sounds like you are trying to escalate it to that level.
Okay, so if you knew that they were armed and dangerous inside, you say the police should just not go in because they know that he's armed and dangerous.
I mean, sure, if he's just at his house by himself, what's he a threat to? And again, if it's about securing evidence, then you don't do it at his house. You wait till...
No, I'm just wondering why you say that they shouldn't go in if they think that they may have a gun in there. Why that's an automatic, like, don't do it.
I mean, I'm
just trying to understand why you think that.
I'm picking more... part of what I'm picking on is the timing of 7:00 in the morning, because you're assuming this person is sleeping or is just woken up and is not awake enough to react quickly. I think that's intentional, right?
Right.
But also, when you're not awake enough and when you're not fully awake, you don't also react rationally. And so, to me, it feels to be, if this is a policy maneuver by the sheriff's office, it feels to me like it is intent to escalate. It has intent to escalate, or at least it is strongly foreseeable that this situation could escalate. And probably statistically likely to escalate in this format. Do it at noon. Wait for him to go to school. Wait for him to go somewhere else. Again, if it's a search warrant, wait for him to leave, period. And then just go into his house when he's not there.
I don't know. Assuming there was a reason for it. I don't know. I don't know if they just got notice that he had just done that deal. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know
that's
if
the question.
Haven't released what they found on him yet.
And that's the question I have, and I think that's the question that Amelia's going. Actually, I don't think so. Amelia's whole thing's about race. It's not about anything else except the cops are racist, and that's why they went in there to kill him. But that's the question I have. Like, what was the rationale for what is the rationale? What is the standard procedure for something like this? Is this a norm that you guys practice? Is this intentional? Do you intentionally go in early in the morning? If so, why? What is the rationale behind why you like to go in early in the morning? Was there a specific set of intelligence that you had gotten that made it make sense? If so, what was that? Like, was the intelligence telling you that he was planning on going to sell it here in 20 minutes and you wanted to get him while he had it so that he couldn't get it into the next person's hands?
Well, with all due respect, you're not going to get those answers anytime soon.
Okay. I know. I'm still going to ask the questions out loud, though.
Right. I understand this. I'm just saying, like, you're already racking your brain with so many questions. I think you need to, like, realize that, like, the investigation has literally, like, just started as far as TBI investigating the officer-involved shooting.
Yeah, did one of their officers get hit by a car? There's been a lot of cops in the news.
Under this incident or something?
No, it was somebody, like, they pulled somebody over on the interstate and then got... No, they were in their car. That's what it was. They pulled somebody over on the interstate. They were the officer was back in the car. I don't think it was TBI. I think it was a state trooper. But they were back in their car, like, you know, looking stuff up on the computer and filling out paperwork, and then got rammed into by somebody else not paying attention.
I don't think I saw that.
Yeah, sorry, non sequitur. Might be. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the fact that this kid's dead was avoidable, I guess, is my point. I don't see the need for this. I don't see the need for this situation to get to how it was. I don't know all the facts, and you're right. I won't know all the facts, and until I know all the facts, I'm going to keep guessing at what I think is happening. And if somebody wants to correct me because they know the facts, I am all ears.
Right, but you're already kind of making some conclusions.
I know I'm making some assumptions based on what I feel is logical. Again, like, you know, I've made this joke 1,000 times in 1,000 different ways. Like, I've asked Max and other people that I know that are daily carry kind of people. I was like, if you heard your door get kicked in at 7 o'clock in the morning, what's the first thing you do? Or if some wild racket that is your door getting kicked in, it wakes you up, what's the first thing you do? It's like, I get my gun. That's the standard answer, and I don't think that is a rare answer. And I don't think cops don't know that. So what do they expect when they go into a house, kick a door in to a person who has a gun? They expect that person to get their gun because that's what a normal person would do in that situation.
Right. That's why you announce your presence. And from what the report said, they were giving him commands that he didn't want to comply with or whatever.
Commands from outside the house or inside? They'd already kicked his door in and started yelling and screaming at him. Yeah, we've had this conversation.
I don't think they would have kicked the door in if they were giving him yelling instructions from outside. So yes, I believe it was after they had kicked him. From what I've seen, from the handful of raids I've seen on TV or whatever, they kicked the door in and they started going through the house saying, "Police, come out with your hands up. Police, announce yourself," etc.
So they were yelling from outside or not?
I don't believe so. I believe these commands were all from inside.
Okay.
After they had kicked the door in, because they kicked the door in by surprise. They're not going to sit out on a bullhorn from outside and give them commands and then go kick it in. But that may have happened too. I don't know. Maybe they were yelling from. I don't think it was like a hostage negotiation situation. So they were, yelling at them from outside.
Okay. Again, fair enough. Again, the logic. I see the logic of what you're saying, but my gut reaction to that is. If I
get what you're saying, yes. If you hear somebody kick the door in and you're armed, you're going to protect yourself. I completely get that.
Right,
and then understanding that as well. That's why they're supposed to announce themselves when they go in, because it saves them from getting shot as well.
But even if
they know just as well that people are just as well criminal or not, that homeowners are going to want to protect themselves.
But even if they do announce themselves, the idea that that's supposed to disarm me makes no sense either. Because if that's the case, then if I'm actually a robber or I am not a cop and kick
yes, a robber could kick your door in and say they're police and try to trick you. Yes, I get that.
Okay, so the announce. I don't know. I guess my point is that announcing yourself doesn't really mean anything in the heat of the situation. You
can only be as honest as you can, man.
I agree.
I mean, if you're going to kick the door, you might as well announce that you're there.
Right, which is why I back all the way
through silently. I mean, if a police officer doesn't want to get shot, what's more likely to not get them shot? Keep going through silently and keep sneaking around, and all of a sudden have a barrel come around the door. I mean, what are you more likely to shoot at?
I mean,
you just hear like footsteps coming down the hallway. I'd say you're more likely to go after that person coming through your house that is not at least saying that they're police. So it lessens the chance of a police officer getting shot. That seems most fucking likely to me.
I mean, if the point is to lessen the idea, to lower the odds of the police officer getting shot is find a situation where you're
they just shouldn't have gone in. They should have given him a call on his phone, and they're like, "Hey, can we come talk to you? Will you come talk to us sometime? That'd be cool. Just whenever you're available, at your convenience."
Sure, why not? What's the worst thing that could happen? They don't show up. I mean,
sure.
You know, is the conclusion that if we call them and say, "Hey, man, we want to come talk, we want to arrest you," will you come?
That kind of tips them off to they're under the investigation for this or that,
right? But hey, man, we want to talk to you. Will you come down and turn yourself in, please? No. Okay. Well, we're gonna have to come get you. That at least, if you feel like, I mean, if you
think that is a logical way to go about.
No, I don't at all. But again,
I'm not even sure why you're opposing.
But I'm saying, as opposed to what? Like what's going to happen if you don't? If they didn't,
what better option do you see logically? What if you think that you have a better way of doing this kind of situation? How would you walk into that situation?
I wouldn't walk into that situation. It makes no sense to me. You're a person of interest, right? I know where you live. Okay. I'm watching what you're doing. I'm not kicking your door in. That doesn't make any sense to me. That puts me at risk that I don't need to take. The only reason you should be putting yourself in grave risk is to stop a worse thing from happening. And in this situation, the worst thing the thing that's stopping from happening is worse is the exchange of drugs and money. I don't think that that's worth putting a police officer at risk for.
That's all that's been reported. We don't know. I mean, it was reported he had gang affiliation. I don't know. I'm saying that obviously it's under investigation. All the facts are not out. And again, you're jumping to a lot of conclusions off of a little bit of information.
Well, but I mean, are you not also
assuming,
jumping to the conclusion that this is the correct way to do it with the same lack of information I have?
I'm going off of previous knowledge of raids in the past.
Okay. I mean, I'll see if I can find a case that's an old one that illustrates my point, and for a future conversation then. Because I think they have anyway.
They treated it differently?
No, that they did it this way, and either a cop got shot or the perp got shot, and it could have been avoided. And I'll make the argument on one of those instead of this active one that we don't have all the facts for.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know that changes anything other than it's not as current of a topic for us. Right. So special session, which I learned some stuff on this today, on what this actually means, that they're doing a special session during a normal session.
I saw a little something that apparently, like, if they call that's the only thing they can talk about. Exactly.
That's really all it does. Nothing else happens in the State House until this is settled.
Yeah.
And so it's the 27th, so not this coming Monday, but the following, is when the special session starts. So they'll have a week to get started on regular stuff, and then this special session kicks in. And it's what? So the Hurricane Milton relief stuff for East, for Cock County and all that kind of stuff.
Helene?
Whatever one it was. Milton, whatever. Helene, whatever. The Cock County, McMinn, whatever it is, all the far east Tennessee counties that got some serious damage from the hurricane storm thing, as well as like the infrastructure rebuilds and all that kind of different stuff to get some different monies flowing so that these municipalities and the state and locals can start rebuilding the needed stuff to get things back in working order. And the school voucher, and there's one other thing that's on this special session, and I forgot what it was.
I thought it was just those three.
What was the other one? It's vouchers, hurricane relief, and I forgot what the third one was.
Yeah, I thought it was three total.
And so to me, what the move that Lee is doing with this is, here's my voucher thing, pass it, and you can go back to session and get done in a normal time frame. Or take forever, spend a bunch of time debating it, because he knows he's got a certain number of people. It's the rural Republicans that are the problem for him, because they're the ones that are going to have the hardest time selling this to their constituency. Your Zacharys and Laffertys and Elaine Davises, and Briggs is not a big fan. I don't know where Massey's at on it. I text her and she didn't answer me either. Usually Massey's my good one. So all those guys, are pretty in line with what needs to be in line with, are likely to vote the way it's needed. But it's the Ray counties and the Granger counties and all these rural counties that don't have a lot of private school options, if they have any. How do you sell that how do you sell a voucher to a constituency that says, okay, you're selling me school choice? I don't have a choice because there aren't any options here.
They don't have to sell it to constituency.
Do what?
Only got to do it. They don't have to sell it to the legislators. It's a great thing about this special session. They've only got so much time to pass it. That's what I think I was saying last night. That I think this is just a way to kind of like force it through without
I agree.
Any chance for any kind of public input.
Right, the public input. But still,
they've had some public input since they tried to do the special session at the end of the last session.
But you're looking at, that was the weird part about the last one, is they just tried to squeeze it into the last session. It wasn't a special session inside of it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they tried to do it at the very end. Yeah.
But the thing is about this one is that you're right. There isn't going to be a lot of time for, again, your Ray County, your representative, your state rep that covers Ray County or whatever, to go back and talk to his constituents about it. But if he wants a future in politics in Ray County, or to continue holding that seat or more, he's got to answer his constituents on that. And those are going to be the tough ones. Those are going to be the tough sells.
Well, I think it's, I don't know, an honest split on it, but I would say it's close to probably about 50-50. So, I mean, you're kind of at like a win-lose either way. I could be wrong. I haven't seen the latest polling on it.
I mean, the real question at play here is, how much does the Republican Party of the state of Tennessee jive with Lee's agenda on this item? Is this something that the Republican Party of Tennessee really wants to happen? Because if you're this rural county guy that knows you're going to not get elected, you're going to lose your next election because you vote for this thing, well, you might be in a lose-lose, because the party's going to say, well, you're going to vote for this thing and you're going to lose your election, because if you don't vote for this thing, we're going to primary you and you're going to lose your election.
I wonder if they're going to split these three items up into three different bills or try to pass it as one thing.
That's a good question, too.
That's one way to increase your chances of getting that passed. They're like, well, we wanted to get hurricane relief. Didn't everybody want hurricane relief? Well, yeah. We got school choice with it, too. Yeah.
If they do that, they should all be burned at the stake. Maybe my take on it. I mean, that's bullshit to the nth degree. I mean, that's certainly taken from our federal government model.
It would be a small area. It's what federal government does with like earmarks and stuff.
Oh, these omnibus
this will
bills.
be a bigger thing to add on or whatever.
Right. They do these giant omnibus bills that are, that's what we were having a big fight about. Not even a year ago, it was the Republicans wanted to stop doing Ukraine relief and the Democrats wanted to stop doing Israel relief, and they shoved them both together because it didn't give them a choice but to all pass it. And then there's other stuff where it's like border wall funding and something else. They kept doing that on the national one. They keep shoving them together so that you don't have a choice, because it's something that's super important to you that you have to vote for. It's stuck with something that it's super unimportant or you're super antithetical to and you can't vote for it.
Yeah, immigration was the other thing.
Yeah, border security funding and whatever. Doesn't matter. Yeah, that was the other one. On this one, you're right. Yeah.
It had nothing to do with the border security.
No, you're right. The third thing on the special session is right. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about my...
no. Yeah, I'm sorry. I did just kind of throw that in. No, sorry. I was looking. I was like, what was that other thing? Yeah, it was like this recovery that had to do with this hurricane, but also, I guess, preparation for future natural disasters. And also the American education recovery or whatever.
Yeah, it ought not. They ought not put him as one. I don't think that's the plan. I think it's three separate. But I asked Scott about it today. The committees still run if the committee makes sense in the conversation.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like Becky Massey, who's the chair of the State Transportation Committee, will not call the Transportation Committee to order during the special session because. Well, she might for the hurricane, the disaster relief conversation.
Yeah, that could be part of it.
But they won't
necessarily a major part of it.
Right, but they won't do it for the voucher part of the conversation.
Right.
And so the committees that are on topic can convene if they choose to. But I think you're right. I think the point of this is to make it a problem to not go ahead and get this passed and out of the way, because all these senators have other stuff to do, and all these representatives have other stuff to do, but spend the entire year in Nashville, because the longer this takes to get out of the way, the longer it's going to take the rest of session to get done with, and they want to be out by early May.
Right.
And if, this special second session takes a month, they might be in session till June. And, you and I probably don't pay attention to that part of it, but I'm pretty sure Massey and Elaine Davis and those guys do. They don't want this to drag out, and that may weigh on people's decision-making. Is I can't let this drag out for 2-3 weeks because I can't stay. I got vacation plans in June, and if we don't get this done, we're going to be in regular session until July.
I'd say it'll get passed.
I think it will too.
Get the education part of it.
And again, I don't know, man. On paper, I don't see a problem. I don't see what anybody can get upset about, other than the absolute 100% obvious buyout or payout or buy off. That's the right word. Buyout, payoff for the teachers. Like, hey, here's a $2,000. Here's a $2,000.
You think that pays them off?
No, but it's like, here's a $2,000 check for you not to oppose what we're doing. That's what it is. Support this so you get this $2,000 check.
Listen.
I mean, that's absolutely
it would be different if they released, guaranteed like $2,000 a year or something like that.
It's a payoff. Whether it's a good one or not is irrelevant. It's an attempted payoff.
Right. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean,
I would
find it insulting personally.
It's like, seriously, yeah.
I would find it very insulting. You want me to eat $2,000 to let you do something that I hate?
Right.
I don't think so. But I mean, again, like one of the things that they are talking about, and that's in this new version that Lee has, is the majority of the funding for this thing is going to come out of the sports betting tax,
right?
Which never went to schools anyway. So, and again, no direct money is coming out of the schools, and apparently one of the things that's stuck in here too, and we'll see if it's got a sunset date or something like that, is that the school boards are to be made whole. Meaning if you have 10 students drop, which the funding formula, if you have 10 students drop to go into private schools, which by definition would mean the funding formula would take $70,000 out of your district, the state will keep that $70,000 in your district, even if you don't have the students.
Yeah, I saw they added in something like that was basically supposedly guaranteeing that this wasn't going to take any money out of schools if students went from one school to another.
Right. If your student population declines, presumably as a result of students going to private school, your funding will not decline, even as it's supposed to by the funding standard.
Right. And I wonder how that hashes out. Because I think that's pretty much the biggest sticking point for most people on it. They see it as taking money away from public schools.
They see it as, but again, that's one of the things that's always bothered me about this conversation is because generally speaking, opponents of vouchers are not honest about the way they paint the picture of taking money out of schools, because it's not. Mm-hmm. Because by the definition of the way the things work, it's not. They're not taking money that would have gone to Rocky Hill and sending it to the private school. That's not what's happening. That's never been talked about as the thing that would be happening. Now, if I take my kid...
But it takes out the overall funding that goes into that particular school.
Right, because
I guess into the county.
Because the kid left.
Right.
It has nothing to do with where the kid went. It's because the kid's not there anymore.
Right.
If a kid... if a kid dies in a car accident in the middle of the school year, I don't know what that does, but for the simplification of conversation, that was a bad start to my hypothetical. If a kid dies in a car accident in the middle of the summer, therefore isn't a student when school starts in the fall, that school district will not get funding for that student. Whether that kid died in a car accident, goes to private school, move to Kentucky. The reason the kid's not there is irrelevant. It's that the kid isn't there. That's why the funding isn't there. And so the argument of a voucher takes money out of schools it's not true definitionally.
Depends on how you want to look at it. When you're essentially encouraging people to leave public schools, you are taking money out of public schools, because you're talking about a singular example of one kid. Yes, that one kid is probably not going to make an economic change to that school. When you're talking about 30, 40, 60 kids in the school.
Well, part of the problem with that, too, is the way this thing's designed is it'll be decades before it gets to that level. The first year of it will be 20,000 students statewide, and they'll add 5,000 students a year to the program. And that was another part, too. It's like if a certain percentage of that original 20,000 is used.
I'm sure. And a lot of people, and I'm one of those people as well, I see some of it as kind of subsidizing, people to go to private school.
I mean, it's absolutely what it is. Regardless, it's what you mean by that is it's subsidizing people that can afford it anyway.
Right.
It's the theory on it is it's subsidizing everybody. The reality is going to be it's going to be subsidizing those who can already do it. Because I'll still say
thank you for saying that more clearly. Though.
Right. Because I'll still say my argument that I've made a bunch of times is that it's like I believe that within a couple of years of this going into place, a CAK that's currently $12,000 a year. Once this voucher thing becomes a thing and they start getting a handful of students that are getting funded that way, that $12,000 is going to go. That $12,000 is going to raise faster than inflation. It'll be at $15,000, $17,000, $20,000, and by the time this kind of settles into the new norm, it'll be whatever the state's putting up plus whatever would have been anyway. So for the family that's already got their kid at CAK, short term they're going to get a little bit of a discount, but long term it's going to come out in the wash. That's my theory of the case. Unless a bunch of more schools come in and there's competition, the total enrollment at CAK is not going to go up. It's going to be the same number of students, and so that means their demand is going up, so they can charge more for their tuition.
Yeah,
and rightly should. And so there's going to be a family right now that's barely getting by, but they're making it. They're doing everything they have to do in their home life to make sure they have the funding to put junior through a year at CAK for $12,000. State's going to come in and give them 7 of that back, but they're still going to be putting in $8,000, so they'll get a little bit of a discount, but they're not going to get the full $7,000 back. And then within a couple of years, they're still going to be spending 12 on top of the 7. Is my theory of the case.
Possibly.
And so I don't know. I mean, I really, and that point in and of itself, that just puts that's basically a long, slow way of making these people that own and operate private schools a bunch of money, which I don't think the state should be in the business of making anybody money. They should be in the business of getting out of the way so people can make money on their own.
That's what happens when your governor likes somebody that heads up a college that happens to do that, or a school that happens to do that.
I mean, the problem, the inverse of the pro voucher argument is it's like, well, the state has a monopoly on educating our kids because normal people can't afford to not send their kids there. And again, on a conservative viewpoint, we don't like. There are actually more on a liberal viewpoint from the left perspective. We don't like monopolies because it's not good for the people that are stuck in them. So
public schools are a monopoly.
Do what?
The public schools are a monopoly?
I mean, theoretically, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mom. I could only half hear you. Okay. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a different left argument against public schools. I mean, front end left argument is like the easy one in the current culture war stuff is like from the left. It's like I don't like that the state of Tennessee, that is a super conservative body, gets to control what the kids get to learn in their schools. And if I really don't, if I don't want Bibles in the classroom, what's my option? If the state of Tennessee says they're good.
The only option you have with most things. Something you don't agree with, you talk to your representative. I mean, just if something happens that you don't want, doesn't necessarily mean that law should go in your favor.
Right, but I'm just saying,
sounds kind of weird.
Right, but you're a leftist in the state of Tennessee. You can talk to your blue in the face. You're not going to get what you want.
Sure.
And so that would be what I don't know. I'm just trying to make up arguments from different angles on why you could be pro or anti-voucher. That's all I'm trying to do here. I don't really believe in any of them, other than I'm open to the conversation about it because I think we could be doing better than we're doing, and status quo doesn't make sense to me. So,
excuse me. I just push back in the general notion that this is the silver bullet, like this is going to fix everything.
Nah. I don't know if that's a crappy argument. I agree with that. No, absolutely not.
Like our schools are failing. We need charter schools. We need school choice. If people were just able to choose where they want to go, then everyone would be so happy, and education would be so much better if you could just choose where you could go.
Right. Right. Sure. So can I choose to send my kid?
Sounds good.
Can I choose to send my kid to an engineering to a STEM academy that all they do is teach STEM stuff, but they do it in a Wiccan form with Wiccan undertones? Are we cool with that? Would the state of Tennessee be cool with that? It's the Wiccan School of Engineering. Well, that's the other thing too.
We have. It would essentially be a religious private school.
Theoretically, I'd be curious if the Tennessee,
as long as it was accredited
Board
school,
of
I don't think they could.
I'd be curious if the state would accredit it for if that was its underlying tone. Because that's the other thing too. Like on the current format of the Lee thing is that not all private school students, but the private school students whom get this funding will be obliged to take the same standardized testings as public school kids in their public school equivalents. Which is one of the things that the private schools hate and will not
take
be okay
that,
with.
then you have to take some kind of standardized test if you receive this funding.
Mm-hmm. So basically, tax dollar funded educations will all be piled together in, in assessment testing annually.
I could see the idea of wanting to, evaluate your return on investment.
I agree. I from the state's perspective, I 100% agree. But from somebody who's arguing, one of the reasons they like private schools is to get the state out of the education. Well, if my private school that took the state out of the education has to teach so the kid passes the test that the state puts up, that kind of doesn't make it a private school anymore. It turns it into a state. It's a state regulated school at some point at that level.
Well, there's the thing, even like a private school, I don't think they have full reign on education. I think they still have some kind of state
There's still some
standards
and stuff, sure. But standards and full state testing are not the same. And so having
right, but you kind of alluded to that the state was, or the public schools were teaching things that maybe they didn't have to teach in private schools.
Yes, or the inverse being private schools are allowed to teach things that public schools aren't. But if the sales pitch is school choice, I want a school that doesn't care about the state standards.
Right.
That the state standards are irrelevant to. I want a school that just makes my kid a genius. I don't care what they have to do to get him there. Drugs, hypnotism, human sacrifice, whatever. I'm good with it. But when they come out the other side, they're going to be like, Tesla level geniuses. They might be a little crazy and have terrible social lives, but they're going to be inventing the future.
I think that's what every parent's goal is in their child's education.
Terrible social standards and super geniuses?
No, that their kids can go to school and come out. Not in the grandiose version that you said.
Right, I know. I'm being hyperbolic intentionally. I'm just saying though, if you're selling it to me as school choice, and I want to get my kids out of the public schools because one of the things this is a true statement for me, I don't like hearing stories about teachers who spend months teaching for the test.
Right.
Because I think that, I don't know, I feel like that's not really a good use of education time. You could teach them the things and they could understand the things, but when you teach them in a preparation for a specific test, you're leaving stuff out that could be expounded upon. You're more focused on the strategy or the order of operations to take a test than you are on the knowledge to understand what the question is asking. And so if one of my problems with the public schools is the standardized testing, but you're telling me if I take the money from the state to put my kid in private school that they still have to do the standardized testing, I'm not really getting a choice out of this now, am I? I don't know if you've caught this. I am all over the map on this conversation. I have no particular standard one way or the other. I'm pro, con, and everything in between.
Good and bad. You're for, against it.
Yeah, I'm for a good conversation about what matters. And I just don't like. Again, like I think the funding thing is the number 1A. That's what everybody cares about. And at least on paper, as I have seen and heard, is $0 are going to come out of your local school municipality as a result of this program.
Right.
And you get a $2,000 bonus if you're a teacher currently. The money that's going to fund this other thing is coming from a different source. It's not coming from the general fund where the normal education dollars come from. I don't know. I don't like, so like, I mean, again, if they're going to make it whole, if the money's still there, I'm down. Get as many kids out of the public school system onto this private dole as possible, because for every kid that leaves, that's a couple dollars more for my kids that's still there, mathematically. So at least the way I'm understanding it, which could be totally wrong. Jennifer, come and correct me, because I know you got better understanding of this than I do. The way I'm understanding the pitch here is $0 adjustment to what's currently happening. And if you're in a position where this $7,000 can put you into a real choice to put your kid somewhere else and you want to take it, you can. But that $7,000 doesn't come out of the school budget. It comes out of a different place. Your actual $7,000 for when you were a student here stays here. I mean, it sounds good to me. You know, subsidizing the rich people that can already afford it sucks. I agree with you on that, but it does. It's not negatively impacting this thing over here. They at least are claiming that the budget of the state can afford it. So I don't know where's the downside here. I mean, it's morally objectionable. What again?
It's going to pass. I think once they change that kind of funding, or at least how they say the funding is going to be.
I mean,
I think that was the biggest hang up for most people.
Right, because I think, again, going back to the rural districts are the ones, the rural Republicans are the ones that are going to be the most hesitant to get on board. And if they can go home and say, listen, our 700 kids that are in our high school, if that's 650 next year, the total funding doesn't change. Don't worry about it. Then that population is going to be happy with it. They're not going to be mad about it. They may not be happy with it, but they're not going to be mad about it. And so the handful of people that get to use it in that population are going to be excited about it. Everybody else is going to be like, yeah, whatever. Doesn't change anything for us. It actually it functionally gave us a little bit more money for our school, so we're good with it. I don't understand how that's going to work long term in our budget, but I think I understand monetary math until I get into that level of budgeting. So, yeah, look forward to that argument. That's going to be fun. Watching hours of the State House.
Yeah.
I'm going to assign that to our special reporter on the scene, Sam. He's going to be our on-the-scene reporter for watching those and telling us all the fun happenings that go on there.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I'm sure most of it will be, or some of it will be live streamed.
I mean, it'll be on that, whatever that channel is that you watch all the time.
Yeah, that's just PBS.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'll probably try to watch a little bit of it. I'm sure I'll catch some clips as different people that I pay attention to share. I'm just not, I don't know.
I'm trying to think if they have their own YouTube page, like, General Assembly. I think they do have, I think there is a General Assembly page.
I mean, it's so easy nowadays. They should be able to just live stream it. And
that's pretty much what they do. They just live stream it.
Yeah, with the YouTube channel, you live stream it, and then once you hit stop, it becomes a video.
Right. And I think they do. I just watch it on PBS.
I get the
sometimes
Kentucky.
sometimes they'll have multiple committees going on at one time, so they can only I guess show one live on pre-TV basically.
I get the Kentucky State House on an air channel in the basement here.
Interesting.
Haven't gotten around to watching it, but I just know I have it.
I guess we're close enough to it.
Yeah.
I guess people in Southeast Kentucky that watch Knoxville news.
I can't
get their weather and local news.
I can't get Channel 8, whose tower's right over there on Paper Mill, but I can get Kentucky PBS.
Yeah, my antennas are kind of funky too. They kind of come and go sometimes. It kind of depends on cloud cover, etc.
Well, my problem is my wife with her big old steel plate in her ankle.
Stealing all the signal?
It does. Like, it legitimately, like, the downstairs one's fine, which is a subset of different weird. I probably just say I do need to get a new antenna for the one upstairs for sure, but the downstairs one, it gets everything more or less fine. But the upstairs one will get a couple channels, and then she'll come up the stairs, which is right behind the TV, and as soon as she's walking up the stairs, it's and then depending on where she sits in the room and whether she's got her legs up on the couch or down on the floor, it'll change how well the signal comes in. Like, it's noticeable.
I mean, some antennas are better than others. Like the one you guys have upstairs I think I bought that probably like 15 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, the one that's downstairs I bought like a year ago off of eBay for the cheapest one they had in stock, and it does just fine through brick walls.
Right.
So I intend
you get fancy ones that are supposed to give you like a 150-mile radius, but don't know if those are quite right.
Yeah.
Did you see UT release their athletics earnings for last year?
Well, I shared that with you. Well, I shared the UT beer, the Nayland beer sales for the season.
Right.
I sent that one to you. I didn't see their total thing, no.
What was it? I'll try to pull it up here. I want to say it was like $250 million.
No, it was more than that. The beer sales was like the beer sales on the season almost hit $1 billion. Hold on, let me see. That's me in the snow. You didn't come down after that. I'm trying to go back in our text conversation here. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, you sent me the beer sales. Then I saw that they released, the athletics department released their earnings or whatever for the year. The revenue, sorry. That's what they call it. They broke a record for a third straight year. Let's see here. Data report to the NCAA showed that the athletics generated for third, where the fuck's the number? Had $234 million in total operating revenue, topping last year's record total of just over $202 million.
Gotcha. Okay, you're right. Because total beer sales at Nayland this year was $4.12 million.
I remember my numbers pretty correctly.
Which is obnoxious amount of beer. Not really, considering they're like $14 pint cans.
Right.
But, 6 or half dozen, I suppose. That's what we do. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so $250 million in sales just inside athletics. And so if you get down,
I don't know what all consists of revenue. I mean, because that could be
ticket sales,
Adidas money too.
Right, ticket sales, sponsorships, merch
sales. NCAA give you some money for something too.
You get TV. You get a percentage of the SEC has a profit sharing thing too, and so but yeah, ESPN pays the NCAA. I'm sorry, ESPN pays the NCAA and the SEC a certain amount of money to be the exclusive, SEC football channels or whatever.
Right.
And then Tennessee gets a percentage of that. Merch sales, Adidas sponsorships. I would be shocked if when Nico does a commercial for Garza Law Firm or whatever, that the university doesn't get a percentage of that deal.
No, probably not. Well, it depends on if he's in a uniform or not, or a jersey. Say if they're in a jersey, that's name and likeness.
That's a good question. Whether he's in an actual official UT uniform versus just some generic gear.
Right, a T-shirt that he wrote Tennessee on, but doesn't have the power T on it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. But I mean, either way, so $250 million in sports revenue. How much do you think it's more or less in other revenues? The University of Tennessee Knoxville campus, not university, not system wide, just Knoxville. What do you think?
Like other departments?
What do you think the total revenue for the University of Tennessee is in a year? Knoxville.
No idea.
I would say
$1 billion.
I would say it's more than that. No, it's probably pretty close to that. It's probably right at it. That's the question. I mean, that's the question. Do you think that the total budget for the University of Tennessee is larger, is smaller, the same as, or greater than Knox County, City, and Knoxville budgets, respectively?
I don't know if they differentiate the different UT branches or whatever.
I try to look at their budget, and it's weird because it's like they talk about the different revenues and the different expenses and stuff by campus, but then they also talk about it as a whole, and it's hard to break down which one's what. All right,
let's say a lot of their numbers they probably do as a whole.
But I mean, hell, UT
it's university system.
Knoxville is part of the campus in Knoxville is part of the system at whole is more than half of the total system. Money wise,
I mean, if you were looking at like a restaurant's revenue, you're not going to look at one location. You're going to talk about that one.
But I mean, But if you're the accountant for that company, you're looking. You should be able to pick the numbers for one and all.
Right.
You should be able to say, enterprise would be the technical business jargon term. Enterprise sales are $10 million. Location Y is $2 million. And then you should be able to. That's one of the things that I do for us is I figure out, our total revenue is X. And
right, but
that's A plus B plus C.
Right, but the numbers that you would compile for the state basically would be all one number, correct? You don't differentiate the stores. That's kind of
no. I mean, for sales tax purposes, I do because I'm obliged to. I'm obliged to report sales tax by location. Which
right. If you're talking about earnings, it's earnings as the company, not earnings as each individual store. That's what I'm saying. A lot of the numbers that are going to be publicly available.
Sure. No, I get what you're saying. Yeah, you're right.
The UT sends to the state, which they're going to say,
right. It's not a question of whether or not it's not a question of whether or not the numbers are attainable. It's whether they're the numbers that we can easily get without having to sit down and ask somebody that knows it.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I wonder if they lump them all together. Can you talk about their engineering department? Are you talking about just the engineering department at UTK? Because I don't know if there's one in UT Martin.
Right. UT Southern. UT Chattanooga. Memphis.
I think it's just Chattanooga, and then
they added Martin.
Did they add one?
Yeah.
Okay. I know Martin's out west. I know everyone always thought that.
Right. There's Martin, Chattanooga, Knoxville, Southern, and Memphis. It's UT Memphis, UT Martin, UT Knoxville,
UT Chattanooga,
and then UT Southern, which is like South Nashville. Because it used to be a different school, they just took it over a couple years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's conversation, at least in the pipe dream version of conversation, at least, that there may be UT Crown in Knoxville.
Huh.
There's been people that have advocated for the University of Tennessee to buy Crown College.
Right.
But that's never been from the UT perspective. That's always been from other people being like, why doesn't UT just take it over? It's fun. Oh, that's cool. I just opened my Facebook and one of my Facebook friends has posted is literally Michelle Carringer, her office phone number, Becky Duncan Massey, and her office phone number, and it says, say no to vouchers.
Yeah, I did see on a local site, the Clinton City School superintendent or whatever sent a letter opposing.
Who did?
Clinton City School.
Oh.
Or Clinton City Schools.
Well, I mean, it goes back to what we were talking
superintendent
about
or
last week.
school administrator.
I mean, the Knox County School Board won't make a statement one way or the other, but I would say if you actually could do it inside Knox County Schools without the school board part of it, I think Knox County Schools would oppose it.
I mean, not if under kind of your thought that, they could see as getting less people, and if they still keep the money, and then they can kind of get more dollars per student.
I'd be interested to see Ryswick's take on it from a very literal. I mean, I think that's part of the problem is that it's hard not to take a more holistic view of what you think is going to happen as a result versus what's literally written down on paper going to happen. Because realistically, if what we think is being discussed right now does happen, how long until they change thing A? How many more sessions of the state legislature have to get together before they say, okay, well, 10% of the students have dropped out of our public school system. We're cutting funding. Because all they have to do is vote on it. It's not a state constitutional issue that would have to be a ballot initiative. It just takes a legislature to do it. And so it's really a slippery slope argument. I think that the actual anti-voucher people, that's the only logical argument they can have, is that this is the beginning of. Because how it currently is written doesn't sound that bad. To me, at least. So, anywho, you had shared with me an interesting little fact that you'd learned. What did you learn about the FAA this week?
Oh, apparently a pilot got arrested, I think, airport outside of Savannah.
Yeah, DUI for flying. I like it.
Yeah, I thought it was like a more severe, I thought there was a different, I guess it is still, yeah, you're not driving. Yeah, I thought it was something more severe if you were behind the, driving a large, excavator or something like that.
I mean, I would think if you were driving a charter bus that I could see
a charter bus, that's better.
I could see there being a larger penalty if you were a professional driver versus a standard driver. If you had a special license. I was thinking
more for an airplane. That's just that much more dangerous.
See, I don't know. I was thinking about that. Is there? Do they fly that much anymore? I feel like these things are so damn automated now that there's not a lot
automation to it. Once they kind of get up in the air, but
I mean, I thought there was a lot of there's a lot of planes that land themselves and shit now too.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Oh, maybe I've watched too many movies.
Maybe I don't want to know about that.
I mean,
they started asking. They're like, "Is this one of those planes that will land itself?" They're like, "Yeah, it's awesome." They're like, "Can I get another plate?"
Is this one of those planes that the door plugs break?
I'll do one of the older planes. I don't care if it smells like cigarettes.
I want one with the ashtrays in the armrest because then I know the pilot's actually flying.
Yeah, why do you guys weld those shut? I saw something that the air quality inside of the airplane actually got worse when they stopped allowing smoking. Because I guess they had more air filtration system going through the cabin at that time.
Fascinating.
For now, it's more recirculated.
Yeah, seems reasonable.
Yeah, because I think about it now, and I'm like, I can't imagine somebody smoking in an airplane. It would get stuffy. Even being a former smoker, I'd be I'd get smoked out.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in a couple bars that are so stale air smoke places. Whew.
Yeah, I've been in a couple places. I'm like, I'm gonna reek when I get home.
Yeah. Pens win 5-2. Big win, Penguins. All right. Yeah, I couldn't, I don't know. I could see myself vaping on an airplane and going to jail. I don't know. We'll see. I haven't been on an airplane in many moons, and I have no want. I don't have a real ID, so I can't get on an airplane anyway. I don't feel like paying a privilege tax for the very, very, very rare occasion that I ever fly.
No, it's not just for flying. If you ever have to go into a federal building, so if you ever want to go interview Burchett again, you have to have it to go into that building.
So if I get summoned to court and it's in the federal building, I can't go in because I don't have a real ID?
That may be slightly different. I'm not sure.
I have a lot of questions.
Maybe to willingly go in there, to visit or whatever. But I'd say, if you're required to go there, I don't know if they can necessarily require you to get a real ID before your court date.
It's just
I don't think you have to have it to go into the city county building, but I think
so. It's a privilege tax to use public services. That's what it is. Anyway, sorry, we're not arguing real IDs. I'm sorry, I'll shut up about it. I'm not going to fly anywhere in a while, so I'm not worried about it.
This is something they wanted to pass like over 10 years ago. I think they originally passed this in like 2011. And it's just gotten postponed and postponed and postponed. I mean, I know it sounds frustrating, but I'm for getting some more, security measures and a license. As someone that used to check IDs, there's fucking fake IDs out there abounds.
I mean, real IDs
you go on websites and buy them for $300-$400.
I mean, I bet you that same website you could buy one with a real ID logo on it.
Possibly.
Now, does that work with whatever? I don't know. I don't know. Like, that's part of the thing that I guess is unfair for me to pitch a fit about, because all I argue about is my access changes because I have or don't have. But like, what's like, is there a heightened security to it? Like, what heightened security is in play?
I'm not 100% sure. I know you have to go through, like, I've looked at it because I'm actually going to go get one before I get my next one. I have to renew my license here this year.
I should have
asked. You have to have, like,
it's
like an extra 2 forms of ID that you have to take in to, like, verify.
I mean, I asked. They asked me when I just got mine a month or so ago, or my standard update that I had to get, and they asked me if I wanted a real ID, and I said no. I didn't. In hindsight, I wish I would have asked. If I say yes, other than more money, what do I need?
Do you know how much more it is?
I think it's like $35 more. So not a crazy number.
Is it that much?
I think so.
I don't know. I don't think it was that much, but I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, again, it's with the world we live in nowadays, and me personally, because I've got I don't know, like 55 background checks that I've had to get for alcohol licenses, and I now have a federal background check for my hemp retailer permit. I just like, are we not at a technological point where you can link those things together on my standard ID? That I need to pay extra so you could put those things together and
they're separate forms of ID.
Do what?
You're talking about, I said those are 2 separate forms of ID. You're talking about different things.
Right, but the point is that it's more that it makes me more. Anyway, fuck, never mind. I don't want to. You don't want to argue about this, so I'm not going to start it. I'm going to stop.
Okay.
What else is going on? We had. I sent you that cool. You know what?
Wildfires?
Yeah, I don't know. That's
I
have a couple problems with that one. We'll come back to that though.
Okay.
TikTok ban is going through. I like it. I'm excited. Screw TikTok. I might see my children more often. It's going to be amazing.
Well, I don't know exactly how they're going to implement it, because Biden said that he's not going to implement it. Because I think it was a bill passed by Congress, and I guess got appealed.
I mean, essentially, the short term of it is like the app is still live. You just can't, like, really what, like, the functional part, as I understand it, is it basically bans the distribution of the app starting now. So,
no, it starts Sunday. That's all.
Whatever, but that. I mean, but starting whenever this goes into effect. So right. Apple, it is now illegal for App Store, Google Store, your Android store to distribute the app. If you already have the app, you can keep using it. You just can't update it whenever updates come out.
It won't be on that platform or whatever, yeah.
Right, and so over time, the function of the app is going to deteriorate because they aren't doing updates to it. Yeah, because you can't. The name of it.
Apparently, there's some other like Chinese TikTok-like
red
company.
Something, red square, red line, something like that.
Yeah,
my kid's already trying to download it now, and it's like, but again, which was fun because I got to argue with him. It was like, well, the law is that a foreign-owned entity cannot hold a significant share of the market of a certain type. That's really what the law says. Now, it's specifically this law was specifically written to go after TikTok because it has so much of the share of the social media space. But if whatever people are jumping off of it to isn't a U.S. owned site, it still falls under this law.
Oh.
But I mean, I'm good with it. Like, so anyway, I sent you the quote. I'm not sure which justice it was, but the quote was, quote, "There's no doubt that for more than 170 million Americans, TikTok offers a distinctive and expansive outlet for expression, means of engagement, and source of community, but Congress has determined that divestiture is necessary to address its well-supported national security concerns regarding TikTok's data and collection practices and a relationship with a foreign adversary. For the foregoing reasons, we conclude that the challenge provisions do not violate petitioners' First Amendment rights." Which is essentially just saying, the First Amendment doesn't apply to foreign entities. And what's interesting is that, they basically are saying, well, if TikTok will just sell to ByteDance, the parent company, will sell TikTok to a U.S. owner, we'll let it go. And what kind of...
First it had to do with, where the information would be stored, I think.
Right. And
so were their first kind of regulations I think they tried to enact upon TikTok.
Right. And so if it's a U.S. company, it's stored by a U.S. company, which means the U.S. government would have access to it on subpoena or...
Well, no, that's why they moved a server or whatever to Texas. And then everyone thought things was cool. And then they figured out that there was still a way for, Beijing headquarters to access,
Right.
So I think not long ago, within the past couple of years, they started a server, I think somewhere in Texas, that was supposed to host all of any and all U.S. communications data, etc.
Oh, we just ran away from the FAA story. I apologize. You didn't even get to the punchline. The punchline was, what's your how much?
No, I thought it should be 0.
Right. What's the legal blood alcohol level of a pilot?
0.04. So half of I think most states 0.08 is legal drinking limit that you can't be at or above. Apparently, the FAA has a regulation that you can't have consumed alcohol 8 hours before your flight, or have a blood alcohol level of 0.04.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. Had a few last night. Got a little tiny bit left in your system when you get up in the morning to go fly. That doesn't seem crazy.
I thought in Germany, I'm pretty sure theirs is 0. Like you can't. It's not. They don't fuck around with that at all. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of people that drink and drive still, but certainly don't have the issues we have here. But they're like, no, you can't have any.
Yeah,
and most of my friends or friends that I met there, were completely hardcore about it. They're like, no, we don't mess around. Like we have, if we're going to go out to a club or whatever, we have one designated driver. They're like, we don't mess around. Because they know how hard it is to get your damn license. Like it could be anywhere from like $1,000 to a few $1,000s to get your license. Going through courses and whatnot.
But there also you could not have a license and survive. Sure. For the most part, a lot better than you can here.
Yeah, it's a little depending on the areas. But yeah, they get more trades and bus systems.
Yeah, they have the inverse. They have the infrastructure of public transit that. Because that cuts both ways too. It's like you don't have as much need to drive drunk if you have other ways to get home, or you don't have as much need to have a car because you have other ways to get around in your life. But yeah,
probably a bit of both.
Anyway, I don't disagree with you. The idea that there's any trace amounts allowed does seem a little concerning, considering it's not just you.
You're flying an airplane.
I guess and I mean, especially like you're a domestic pilot or whatever.
I guess driving a car is pretty fucking easy. So I can do that pretty well without really thinking too much, but it still takes skill.
Yeah. But you crash your car. I mean, hell, if even you crash a bus with 60 people in it, you put 60 people in danger. That sucks and that's problematic. But, you run into a tree or another car, you're only going to kill a couple other people in the process. Where you run that plane into, I don't know, a populated area, not just the passengers are at risk. Way more than the passengers are at risk in this situation. Not just
there's no Scott police that are going to see you swerving up there and pull you over.
And I mean, really, it's just relatively hard to see if you're swerving because there's no fixed point in the sky for you to compare it to.
Yeah, no judgment. Like, am I swerving or is the other plane swerving? I can't tell which one of us is moving.
Right. Exactly. Is the sun wiggling? I'm confused.
Right.
Exactly. But so anyway, yeah, the TikTok ban's going through. I'm down with it. Like the idea that the algorithm's the money, and the pure capitalism says you would sell it in a heartbeat to keep, like I don't know, it's like 30% of TikTok US is like a multi-billion-dollar company, or has multi-billion dollars in play, and if you're a capitalist would say, okay, whatever I have to do to keep that money in.
Right.
And for somebody, for whomever in China, whether it's ByteDance or the PRC?
People's Republic of China?
Yeah. Whether it's the PRC or ByteDance proper who's just refusing to sell, it seems a little sus to me.
Yeah, I would have thought the same. Yeah, they would have sold it off. I think that was kind of what they had offered to them, like in the past couple of years.
Yeah,
because they're like, hey, it has to do with ownership. Or like, but if you had an American that owned it,
right? But I think China knows that Trump's gonna turn over whatever he has to turn over to get it done. Because short term, Trump could just advise the Justice Department not to enforce it.
Well, I think it'll be up to. I think it's what like Biden did. Basically, said hot potato, and is going to leave it to Trump to, I guess, sign it into law. So I don't think it's become law. I think it's
law.
Passed.
It's full law. That's what it's at the Supreme Court as a.
So it's been passed. It was passed by Congress.
Right. It was signed. It is law. Period. And
what did I read that Biden was doing? Because Biden was leaving the. I was like, Biden was leaving this kind of decision to Trump. I guess whether or not to enact it.
For Biden's sake, is that Biden is Biden's Justice Department is basically packed the bags. They're not doing anything anyway, and so at least rhetorically, Biden says, "I have advised my Justice Department to leave it alone because they only have another day of work anyway." And so it'll be Trump and his Justice Department that will have to actually execute the law on this and go after Alphabet or Apple for distributing it. And so the question is, if you're Apple, Trump's cool with TikTok because TikTok likes Trump, so Trump likes TikTok. If you're Apple, do you continue to put updates and stuff on the App Store for your customers, even though it's technically against the law, but the President of the United States has told his Justice Department not to enforce it?
I was trying to see if I could find it.
Because until there's some congressional action to change the law on this, that's the only thing that can play. And so
I guess I don't really understand what Biden administration or his Justice Department could even do. In the waning days,
right? I think that's just it. Is they can't do anything. There's not enough time.
They're supposed to, or the app has to go off the App Store by the 1st, or by Sunday.
Right.
Trump's inaugurated Monday.
Right. So his Justice Department doesn't have time to do anything. So he could say he's instructing his Justice Department to do whatever he wants to because they're not going to do anything because they'll be gone by the time his instructions will take effect. And so, just on pure political basis, Biden says, Trump, you deal with this. Well, of course, because
I was thinking it hadn't got signed into law yet.
It couldn't be in front of the Supreme Court if it wasn't law.
Yeah, I see your point on that. So I'm kind of confused.
Yeah. No, I think it's very clearly like the law is passed. It's in play. It's up to the executive branch to execute the law as passed by Congress and upheld by the Supreme Court. And it's literally it's an option for Trump and his Justice Department to go after violators of said law. It's his Justice Department's, it's Trump's prosecutorial discretion to do anything about it unless he can get an act of Congress to change this law. And so right now, it's literally going to be TikTok can continue to exist as long as Trump doesn't go after them after distribution of their product.
And it looks like TikTok CEO is thanking President Donald Trump for his quote unquote his commitment to keeping the app available after the Supreme Court upheld.
Yeah, Trump said Trump said in a tweet or whatever that whatever this thing is this upheld will be undone or something like that was the quote.
No, I was trying to see what angle they were talking about. Never mind. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I just like it's a perfectly hilarious example of Trump's lack of commitment to anything. Because I don't know, 5 years ago when Trump was in the White House, he was talking about banning TikTok.
What was his reasoning then?
I mean, he hates China.
I vaguely remember him talking about banning
China's
TikTok.
a problem. We don't like China. So the Tennessee internet porn ban has gone into effect. Have you seen any of the stories on that one?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. It's a part of like a class action. There's like a few other states. I think they're still arguing it in the Supreme Court. I don't think it's come out yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really paid that much attention to porn law. There's. I got nothing on this other than I saw some.
I thought it was something that alluded to, I guess, because it had to do with like age verification, that you had to like upload like an ID.
Right, which nobody wants to do because they don't want record of them being into porn.
Right.
It is.
There's just the security issue of I guess your license and how securely they're storing that information.
Sure. I mean, I've sent pictures of my ID for a lot of different things, both private and public. I've like the state of Tennessee's got digital copies of my IDs for different stuff.
Right. They got it on file regardless. Cause
I know, but I still have to upload it to them.
Right.
Which I find
it's kind of weird. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Which was actually extra funny because I got to do it with my temporary. Because fuck you guys. Like that crack. Like I mean, I was literally it was a picture I took on my phone of the piece of paper that they printed off for me at the DMV.
I was about to say you should have just like scanned like the entire sheet and sent the JPEG as that full sheet.
Mm-hmm. It was not quite the full. It was I folded it because like it's in the center of the page, but it's still ID size. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was that was what was weird about it. It was vertical. It was not the same picture. It was not the same format as the actual ID that came, but it was maybe I don't know. It was maybe like total. It was maybe a sixth of a page, but it was like dead center. And so like I'd folded it a couple times, but I only like when I sent the picture, it was like 2/3 of a page is what I sent them. Yeah. Because it's so stupid. But anyway, yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's such a fun little catch-22 that they put in play because, this is just one of those, like, who wants to be the public defender of, your right to porn access and your right to privacy at the same time?
ACL, you'll jump into that.
Doubt it.
I don't know who's defending it. I wouldn't surprise me if they do.
I'm just saying, it should be like just on a more like I personally, if I like on a moral like political level, to me, I would argue that it's horseshit.
They see it as one of the deteriorations. That's why we
right because porn hasn't always existed from the beginnings of time.
Right. That's why our kids are being crazy.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to if that's the take, and I agree with it at some level, I do. It's like it's easier to get. It's like age restricted access is easier. If the product is age restricted, it's easier to get online. I agree with that, whether you're of age or not. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, it's harder to get if it's age restricted.
No,
it's easier to get.
It's easier to go online and get something that is age restricted than it is in real life.
Oh, gotcha.
It's easier for a 16-year-old boy to go to Pornhub than it is for him to go to the porn store off the interstate and buy anything.
Right.
It's not even it's not even a monetary issue. It's just a pure access part of the conversation.
Right.
But again, that's one of the things that I've been pitching a fit about on the hemp law stuff. It's like, you're right. It is easier for kids to get this stuff, but you're going after me, the retailer, who actually has the means to stop them, but you're letting the internet just run free on it. But then you're chasing porn off because they don't have a good way to verify IDs. but you can still go buy hemp online.
And it's only certain states that like the Pornhub ban is. Tennessee is one of them, but
yeah, it's like what, Tennessee, Virginia, North Carolina, Kentucky.
I can't remember. I want to say it was like less than 20.
I don't know. I got to get my VPN. I guess I got to go ahead and buy a VPN. So
I did see. I think there was a WAT story on that was like one of the most searched topics in Tennessee or whatever in the past couple of days. Is searches for VPNs.
Yeah, because I want to tell the internet that I'm in California, so I can get all that porn I can get that porn access.
I'm in your state. You guys are filming it here, right?
Right.
I'm one of you guys.
You're cool with that. I mean, that's part. I mean, and again, that clarifies the issue of why access online is easier, because there's a lot of reasons to get a VPN. Like I've heard people talk about, like there's apparently there's a website like dedicated to it where you can go on, and it searches the Netflix libraries from different countries. And so you can go into your VPN and tell your VPN you're in Austria.
Right.
And then log into Netflix. And so Netflix thinks you're in Austria watching Netflix. And so different things are available in Austrian Netflix than are available in US Netflix.
Right.
And so like there's dedicated efforts to this thing. But, or the whole, like the more, I don't know, at least to me, the more reasonable reason to get a VPN is that it helps protect your data from general consumption.
Right.
So that's
why I use one.
Right. So that like when I'm online and I'm searching whatever I'm searching, everybody and their brother doesn't get to see that and then use that for marketing or other data collection services. They just think it's some random Shlomo from anywhere because the VPN is obscuring who I actually am on the other side. And I want to get my porn, so I'm going to go to a state where I can get my porn. That's all I'm saying.
That's right.
I'm going to go ahead and get my VPN now, so I can protect my privacy and get and get some boobies. I don't see a problem with that. Good timing on the kid leaving. He was standing here behind me when I was making fun of schools.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. But now we're talking about porn, and he went away, so I'm good.
I mean, I could see some reasoning behind, I guess, the proliferation of it being kind of a little bit of a downside for
right. I could get the argument.
Youth and adolescents. I have seen many stories to where there are teens that are getting
they talk about
misconstrued views of relationships. Basically,
right. Relationships have gotten really hard because people don't know how to interact with each other. I mean,
that's also more of like people talk over the phone or talk over text and stuff.
Well, but I mean, I've had conversations with my kids, with both the boys, about it's like, look, guys, I'm not saying you are or not, but if you're watching porn videos or whatever, that is not how women act. Right. That is not real. It's fun to look at, and I'm not telling you not to look at it and have a fun time with it. Do whatever you want to do, but understand that is not that is an actor pretending to do a thing that isn't reality. And
I mean, you could say the same thing about TV as well.
Sure. Right. This isn't that's not the real world. It's the same right. I've had that conversation too. But like it's a much more awkward conversation when it's in that subject.
Right.
From a parent to a child thing. But it's like, look, man, like I'm not telling you not to play with yourself and do all that kind of stuff. I get it. I've been there. It's great. It's awesome. Wieners are weird. But just realize that those human beings that you're watching are pretending to do that thing, and that's not how normal human beings interact in those kind of things. So you're going to see and enjoy seeing stuff that you will never experience in reality because it was never real in the first place. So I've tried to make that point. We'll see. I don't know. I'm hoping to grow some healthy kids. We'll see. Oh, probably not.
One day at a time.
Again, but to go back there for just a second, though, it's like the thing that pisses me off most about it is that it's an inconsistent standard that the state of Tennessee specifically is putting on it. It's like, listen, I get where you're going on this particular subject, but you don't apply that same principle, not even logic, but principle. Like this is a logical, reasonable conclusion to come to and have a principled stance on. But then when we approach that same principled stance on a different thing, like, I don't know, sports betting. So sports betting is legal in the state of Tennessee. How hard do they go after age verification on that?
Right.
You know, well, you know, they don't really go that hard after that because they make a lot of tax money off of that.
Right.
But then the hemp thing again, you know, it's like, how hard are you going after hemp age verification or nicotine verification for online sellers of vapes or cigars or whatever? How hard are you going?
Sorry.
How hard are you guys going after alcohol service and getting like specialty wines delivered? Not that a lot of kids are into specialty wines, but if that's the only chance you got to get to alcohol, you do whatever you got to do. You know, like all these age restricted things are available online, but you pick one and go hard at it, but leave the other ones alone. Where's the consistency in principle? Because we have porn stores that are legal, like actual brick and mortar porn stores are legal in the state of Tennessee. And again, I'm not advocating against those. Just make sure I'm clear about what I'm getting here. It's like age restricted shit that's online that you are more than happy to shut down online is legal for brick and mortar, and you're not shutting those down. Cool. But you're doing the inverse with the hemp industry. You're doing the inverse with the nicotine industry. It makes zero fucking sense to me.
I mean, they're kind of putting something that's in place. I don't know if they're necessarily, not regulating it as much as kind of the way you see it. I mean, this is a new law, and they've pretty much just kind of done, pretty much what they did in the past. Maybe with tobacco and alcohol is just kind of like set the year, and that's it.
No, because again,
that's all with age verification.
If the argument for why this thing needs to exist, why this ban needs to exist, being specific on the hemp one, if the argument is from Briggs, if the argument is, as a doctor, I know how damaging this can be to the brains of youth. We need to do everything we can to keep kids from getting it. That's the argument in play. Agreed. I agree with that argument. Stop letting kids buy it online. Stop letting anybody buy it online, and force them to go to the brick and mortar stores where we have some real ability to restrict access.
How do you stop online sales?
How do you stop online porn? Like, they're doing it.
That's not stopping online porn. That's just making it a little bit harder to do it. That's not stopping it. That's what I'm saying. How would you stop online? How would the state stop online sales and force people to go to brick and mortar stores?
I mean, you would the same way they're doing the porn. You're not making it impossible. You're just making it way harder. So for a kid to get a VPN and then pretend he's in California, but California theoretically could have the same law on age restriction of nicotine purchases. Well, I don't know, whatever. Okay, fine. But I mean, again, you're making it more difficult for a kid to get that.
You're advocating for a regulation of businesses, which kind of astounds me. Basically, you want the state.
No, I'm advocating for consistency and logic. I'm not advocating for. I'd be perfectly fine if none of this existed. But if you're gonna make a principled argument on why something shouldn't be available to kids, then be consistent and be logical on how you're going to do it. I'd be let's. I mean, again, like throw all the shit out. Let me take the risk as the business owner of selling to whoever I sell to, and if there's any harm done to those people by the products that I put in their hands, that's on me. I have liability in that. Put it that way, and I'll be careful. I'll be more careful if I'm worried about getting sued because some kid gets super high and kills himself, and I get sued because of that. I'll be more careful about selling to younger people.
Could you be sued, or would it be the product manufacturer?
It depends on the specifics. I mean, I would think I could be sued because I sold it to him. I could be sued. Whether that lawsuit would stick or not, it's a different thing, and it depends on what the law is in place where civil action could take place.
Right.
But I would rather be in a world where liability law was more important than criminal law. That I actually have some responsibility for my actions. I'm responsible for my actions as an individual, being the number one A of the conversation here, instead of, But at the same time, you have some responsibility for your actions as a consumer. Again, and I could get behind the principle of saying, there is a liability in play when youth are interacting with a thing, that we as a society have decided that it is a higher liability on the people involved with putting this in the hands of kids. I can get on board with that. It's the responsibility of the kid or their family to prove that I was negligent in my actions. But sure, that makes more sense to me. Anyway, you want to get weird and get this over with?
All right.
I forgot which button I did. No, I didn't. Oh, yeah, I remember my button. Okay. Something crazy.
Okay. I guess we'll keep the first one on the semi-sexual nature. Got Italian soccer club Lazio fires Falconer for posting photos of his penis implant. She saw this the other day.
No, I don't even know where to start. What?
Yeah.
So the guy who tends to the bird that is the mascot of the team,
right?
Said, "Hey, check out my new dick."
Yeah, his own prosthetic penis.
Okay, and they fired him.
Shared images on his private social media accounts after undergoing surgery for a penile implant, which he said was for non-medical reasons.
I mean, let's be fair. You're in close proximity to probably the top 1% of sexiest dudes in the world. Constantly as the mascot assistant to a football club. You probably have some self-esteem issues. I still don't think you need to be posting pictures of your dick on the internet.
Right.
Full stop.
Yeah. Added that he felt, quote, very proud and, quote, very masculine being a part of Lazio. And Series A clearly did not feel the same way as it fired the Spaniard shortly afterwards.
Oh, sorry, buddy. I don't know what to tell you there.
I guess I never heard of it, but I guess before the beginning of each game, I guess he comes out and the eagle flies over. I think it's Stadio Olimpica, which I've heard of, but I guess that's where Lazio plays.
I mean, yeah, those Spanish Premier League. Is that what you said?
They call it Series A, basically.
Right, but it's Spanish Professional Soccer League.
Italian. He was Spanish.
He's Spanish. Okay.
Yeah, he was Spanish, but this was in Italy. He was that team's Falconer.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, like the Eagles football club of the United States American Football League, they have a Falconer who flies an American Eagle in pregame ceremonies. What is it? Auburn's got an eagle, right? The War Eagle. They fly that motherfucker.
I think you're right. No.
Yeah. So I mean, that's not it's not an uncommon pregame mascot-y ritual thing to do. It's just uncommon that the person who handles said mascot puts their wiener on the internet. Again, and you made it even worse because it's Italians nonetheless. Not that just because the team plays in Italy, most of the players are Italian, but you have Italian beauty standards and professional footballers. He might be a handsome fella, but by comparison to the people he spends a lot of time with, he's probably a 2.
I don't know. Maybe he gets to spend a little time with the team, but the Falconer, you've got a little bit of stature, but not that much. You're not a player.
No, but you're back. I mean, you're on the field. You're in proximity. Again, it's proximity. It's not that you're, who the yeah.
I mean, I don't know why he would even think that he could compete with them. I haven't seen the guy. Maybe he's a handsome devil. I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe he just felt inadequate.
I've never spent a lot of time anywhere even in remote proximity of a ton of beautiful people, so I don't know how I don't know how the human mind handles being a generally attractive dude in normal populations, but ugly as sin in a certain population.
There's attractive soccer players, and there's some ugly ones too.
Yeah, I mean, what's his name that became the actor? That is not a handsome fellow. You know what I'm talking about?
Beckham?
No fucking. He was in Lock, Stock, and all those Guy Ritchie movies.
Oh, Vinny Jones?
Yeah. He holds the record for the shortest or for the quickest red card in a Premier League game.
I think I've heard about that, yeah.
Yeah. He was a pretty good player, but really what he was is just a fucking brawler that went out there and kicked somebody's ass, and
I saw a couple of videos of him like slide tackling a couple motherfuckers.
Yeah.
They were vicious.
He was a vicious dude. One more. Here we go. I'm going to back it up a second because actually he's a hell of an actor too. There's
Yeah, I was about to say he's a good actor.
There's a series.
I don't think he's ugly. I think he's kind of handsome.
He's aged well. He has aged well. He's not a handsome fella. He's a broody man. Now to say he's an attractive, he would be a mate-worthy man, yes. But on a Beckham and Ronaldo scale, he is not an attractive man.
Well, yeah, you're comparing him to 11s.
Yes, because and I'm just making sure I'm clear that these are all professional footballers that are super handsome fellas. I mean, Landon Donovan was not like, yeah, he wasn't that hot. I would say, but Landon Donovan's a more attractive dude. Landon's always kind of seemed kind of like a pussy to me. Anyway, I apologize. I digress. He's a good actor. There was a series that we watched recently that he was old Parker. He was the caretaker of an English estate, and it was an interesting character that he got to play in that. And it was neat, and he was good because he wasn't like the big broody, beat everybody up guy. He had that in him, and that was part of the character, but it wasn't the forefront of the character like a lot of his other characters were. So I was impressed with his acting in that one.
Yeah,
I'll have to look that up. I'll send you a link. Oh, Four Squirrels, everybody. Check out the band. I had a weird flashback. Anyway, one more, and we'll get weird. Full spastic tonight. I'm sorry.
Okay. Huh? U.S. citizen denied entry into Poland after security staff object to handwritten notes in passport. Go back into our ID talk, I guess.
Indeed. Is it a U.S. passport?
Yeah, U.S. passport had been blocked from entering because her passport was defaced with handwritten notes, border officials said Wednesday.
Right, because I believe the standard is that is U.S. property. That is not your property.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like your license, where it's technically property of the state or whatever.
Right, and so you have defaced U.S. property. Yeah. What did it say? Does it have some quotes for the notes?
No. I was assuming that it was like she wrote down like where the places were. I'm not sure. Let's see what it talks about. It was handwritten notes of locations and airport names under visa stamps with the country she had visited. So I think it was like her own notes.
Oh, okay.
Maybe she couldn't read the stamp or it was in a different language. She's like, oh, that's this place. That's this place.
Right.
So it was unbeknownst to her, but I guess she's trying to think. It talks about the law.
That's Gatwick.
She was unaware.
That's when I flew into Gatwick in London on April 3rd, 1999.
Right.
Makes sense.
See, as a general rule, it is not permissible for the holder to write in a passport other than to provide a required signature and emergency contacts. Then there was also the question of why other border officials hadn't stopped her. I guess she was in another location prior to that.
I don't know. I get it on both sides. I understand, like on technicality's sake, yes. It is a defaced passport. It is no longer legitimate for those reasons, but at the same time, it's not like, she's, maybe, I don't know, I guess that's the premise. Like, it's not like she's scrawling codes or some sort of like, the movements of the security personnel in the airports while she's there.
Right. But it could be code for that.
Yeah, it'd be a very high-end code if you could pull it off, I suppose.
Well, that's how the best stuff are.
Yeah, but if you're that good at codes and stuff like that, it's not like you're not allowed to have a book in your carry-on bag. You could be writing codes in your book on your carry-on bag and not in your passport. Seems like an obviously poor way to go about sneaking something across the border.
Yeah. Just thought about something I hadn't really thought of either, because it's something I could see as being reasonable.
Right. I can see it both ways as being like, I can see it as like, like a passport really for a lot of people that that like to travel, but it's not like, like how many people travel so much that they have to get a new passport, not because it expires, but because they ran out of space. Yeah. Like you enjoy traveling and you want to make sure you remember, like this is just notes to help you remember your travel experience. Like I could see the mindset of somebody doing that and harmless enough. But I also could see that as being like, hey, that's not how this works. You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah. Interesting.
Good news of the weird, man. I like that. All right, friend, last call. Anything else before we call this a show?
Did see an updated con law ad that's going out now. Now they've added in that I can't tell if they say Trump administration opposed or posed, like a past tense or present. Because when it's talking about that, it puts up like a quote from like a newspaper or an article or something, but it says quoted from like an article from like 2018.
I'm still begging for it. If anybody knows somebody who can argue why con law needs to exist, almost agreement at gmail.com.
Well, apparently it's stopping everyone from creating hospitals.
I mean, I don't know. I really want to. I would really love to have a well-informed pro-con conversation with a couple people that know it inside and out and backwards, the history of it, why it exists, why it needs to exist, and argue about it. Like, I really want to understand it better, because the surface level of me, as you all know, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me on the surface level. I think
it must apply to like little clinics and stuff too. It isn't just
I am
hospitals.
the ever capitalist, and all I care about is making money. And so anything to stop people from making money doesn't make sense to me. And so I will cite my own biases from the get-go. But I really want to, I really like to understand it, because it doesn't seem logical to me on the surface. And it's very possible that an actual deeper dive into it could make me understand why it makes sense. So anyway, almostagreement@gmail.com. If if you or somebody is deeply interested in understanding on how a con law works and can explain it to Sam and I, we'd really appreciate it, because I would like to start talking about it in real terms instead of abstract terms and what I think it might or could possibly pretend to mean. What do you think, Sam?
What?
I don't know. Is there anybody out there that exists?
I'm sure there's people.
And we need to find.
There's obviously this advocacy group that knows something about it.
I mean, but because I'm with you on it, because I feel like this is one of those. This is somebody that has a direct profit motive on getting it overturned so they can do a thing. That's my assumption. I
thought of it before. That's what just kind of dawned on me. I think when I read about it before of other states, that some of it had to do with little CT scan clinics and kind of little clinics like that were popping up. That I think the hospitals were saying, we're cutting into their bottom line. Hey, you guys have let all these little mom and pop shops pop up doing things that we were normally doing.
That's so funny. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Please, somebody.
I'm not explaining it right. I'm sure you were smiling.
We are begging you people, somebody help us out here, because we don't know, because I was about to go. We're trying to end the episode and he's trying to get me to get deep back into it. That's not where we want to go right now. So somebody, please, almostagreement@gmail.com. Tell me who you know that knows better so we can talk about it, because I want to understand it. And I think Sam wants to understand it too, yeah? Sure, he says. Con law conversation next week. Probably not. almostagreement@gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, favorite podcast, right? All those things. Hit us up. Let us know. Do what we can do. Share with your friends. Text your friends. Do whatever you can do to help us spread the word. I'm dead serious about it. If you know somebody, please, almostagreement@gmail.com. If you or somebody is deeply knowledgeable on con law and a pro or con voice, I'm good either way. I would love for you to come and explain it to me. Bring notes. Make sure you have links and all those good things when you're going to do it, because I want to verify your knowledge, or I want to make it provable knowledge, I suppose, for lack of a better word. Because again, surface level doesn't mean the real level. My surface level analysis smells a little bullshitty to me, but that doesn't mean it is. So please, somebody help us out. Almost Agreement. We talked about cool things, and we'll talk about more cool things next week and in weeks beyond. Hopefully Sam can get out of his office that he's got to be doing work in tonight and come be with us in the flesh next week. If not, we'll do it remote again. Who cares? We're having a good time. We hope you had a good time. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, everybody.